A manhunt now in its second day tonight. New details involving shell casings, a fake ID, and pictures of the person they say gunned down the head of one of the largest health insurers in the country. I'm Gadi Schwartz, and this is Stay Tuned Now. And we now have the clearest view yet of a person of interest in yesterday's assassin-style attack in Manhattan. There it is right there. Sources telling NBC News that these new surveillance images were taken inside of an Upper West Side hostel prior to that shooting. And NYPD clarifying tonight that this is a person, quote, wanted for questioning. A brand new video from NBC New York tonight showing a new angle of the suspect's escape. It appears to show the gunman riding that e-bike near Central Park. Police are now reviewing the video. The shooter appears to have ditched the light-colored backpack he was wearing during the attack. And also today, NBC's Tom Winter reporting the shell casings recovered at the crime scene had the words deny, defend, and depose written on them, which could be a reference to how insurance companies try to avoid paying patients' medical claims. According to police, UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson was ambushed in a premeditated and pre-planned attack on his way to a conference yesterday morning. Investigators have been combing through all of that evidence, plus tracing the shooter's last known locations and their brazen escape now more than 36 hours ago.
Tonight, police still don't have a name, but they do have a new location. NYPD zeroing in on a hostel on New York's Upper West Side where cameras captured a person of interest in yesterday's deadly shooting unmasked. Sources tell NBC News the person might have booked a room there using a fake ID and using cash. Before the shooting, NYPD says the suspect bought a bottle of water and 2 protein bars at a Starbucks a few blocks from the crime scene. Sources telling us the suspect tossed all 3. The shooting itself happened just before 7 a.m. outside the 54th Street side of the Hilton Hotel, where police say the now masked gunman waited for the victim arriving at a conference. Other surveillance images show part of the escape through an alley, then towards Central Park, the suspect's last known location.
Let's bring in Priscilla Thompson with the latest. Priscilla, starting with these new images that we're seeing, what are we learning about this new surveillance video that WNBC got and this person of interest that NYPD is looking for?
Yeah, a lot of different surveillance video coming in, and obviously NBC New York getting this video, which appears to show the suspected shooter riding that e-bike down West 85th Street as he disappeared into Central Park. As a reminder, he was here, shot the CEO on the sidewalk just behind me, and then dipped into an alley and was able to get on an e-bike, according to police, and take that into Central Park, where they don't have a sense of where he went beyond that. But as they are getting all of these different images, we noticed that in the video from the Starbucks here in Midtown, the ski mask is on, his face is fully covered, and police are saying definitively this man is a suspect. We are calling him the suspect. But when it comes to some of this other surveillance video at the hostel where you see his full face, and even potentially the video that they're reviewing from that e-bike, they are calling that person a person of interest. Now, it is likely that it is probably the same person and all related, but clearly police are not there yet, and so they are not yet saying that. But the other new piece of evidence, which could be really interesting to see how this develops, is that they now know, or they're operating under the belief that the suspect took a Greyhound bus from Atlanta to New York City on last Sunday, November the 24th, so about a week and a half ago. And so that is how long this person could have potentially been in the city. So I'm sure this is only the beginning of the treasure trove of surveillance video that we're going to be seeing as police are working to backtrack on when that suspect got here and what they may have done in the days leading up to this brazen attack, and also, of course, where that suspect may have gone and where that person could be tonight. Gadi?
And what are they learning at that hostel?
Yes, so we know that they were searching that hostel late yesterday, and they obviously got those surveillance videos where you see for the first time this person of interest that is unmasked. And so it is believed that he may have been staying there. Now, that hostel does require ID and payment, of course, and so it seems that this person may have used a fake ID and paid in cash to avoid any sort of paper trail. But certainly people who were seeing that search and staying there were a bit stunned to know that they may have been sleeping or staying with a man potentially accused of such a crime as this. But I will say the other thing about that bus ticket is that now that is another something that they can use to try to get a name, try to get a paper trail on this person and begin to figure out who exactly this is.
They've got a possible paper trail, but they've also got those bullets that have been recovered. And those words on the bullets, they say a lot. But what about the forensics? Do we know what kind of bullets they were, what kind of gun?
Yeah, so we know about the bullets, but we don't know about the gun. And this is important because there's been some reporting about what kind of gun it is. But the reality is, until the police have that gun in their custody or have spoken to the suspected gunman or the gunman in this case, they don't have ballistics. They don't have that evidence and information to definitively say what kind of gun this might have been. But as you noted, they do have those bullets with those three words on them: deny, defend, and depose. Clearly language that has been used to talk about the ways in which insurance companies try to get out of making payments to people. And so it could be a hint into a possible motive there. So definitely something that we know police are looking at. And unclear whether that was just written in Sharpie or something on those shell casings or whether it was etched in. So again, all information that they're trying to track down.
And on top of this, police in Minnesota, where Brian Thompson lived, they're investigating a bomb threat to the family or to the house. What do we know about that?
Yeah, so police confirming that was a hoax bomb threat. So it turned out to not be anything real. But it is concerning, especially as we're seeing sort of this conversation bubbling online where people have a lot of strong opinions about the insurance industry and about the executives that lead that industry. And so to see this brazen attack and then that hoax bomb threat, and it's concerning if there could be copycats or things like that in the future. So certainly something to keep an eye on. And of course, as that family is there in Minnesota grieving the loss of Brian Thompson, he was a father of two, his family describing him as someone who just loved life. Gadi?
Priscilla Thompson, thank you. And joining us now is Evie Pompouris. She is an NBC News law enforcement analyst and former Secret Service special agent. Evie, thank you so much for being with us. First off, I got to start with these two different surveillance images that they have released. Like, I'm not an expert, but to me, these look like two very different people. What do you see?
I would be careful with that because it always depends on the quality of the cameras. And so for them to try to hone it down, I think they're doing a good job. They're just looking at all possibilities. So if there are some discrepancies, that's why one of them is we want this person for questioning because they're not sure. So I think here in a scenario like this, you really should turn over every stone. I wouldn't pull back from that, especially just even for me, we're working with surveillance cameras and all these different things. The quality is always so different. So what somebody looks on camera versus real life, you really just can't put those two together sometimes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yet, the rush is to get as much information out there as possible to get the help from the public. And sometimes things just don't look like they line up. Clearly, though, we can see the face of this person of interest. Shouldn't facial recognition be able to track that person down, or is that just like a fiction? We don't really have those capabilities yet.
No, it's not fiction. A lot of places have it. It just depends where you are. And I think that's something that they are probably using. So it's definitely fair game. It's definitely something that is used. It's definitely they're pulling all that stuff up. Absolutely.
And what do you make of the suspect buying stuff at Starbucks nearby and then tossing it out? Online, it's either this person is a very professional hitman or that they are the sloppiest, assassin ever. It seems like both of them go in two different directions.
It's such a valid point because you look at, from one hand, you look at he was able to locate the CEO. He was able to wait. He was able to find him. He stayed in a hostel. He paid cash. So you see all these things that he's done. And obviously, he's gotten away 36 hours. Nobody can find him. And then you look at something like he went to Starbucks, and purchased some items, then threw them out. So there's a bit of a discrepancy there. Again, it's so early to say. It does seem like something personal. A targeted attack that is personal. And earlier on, as it was being reported, copycats are an important thing because now you have somebody that's targeting a CEO, an executive. And just so the public knows, they typically they have their own security, their protection. Actually, a lot of U.S. Secret Service agents, when they leave the agency, they end up going to these companies and doing what they call executive protection. So it's really interesting that he seems to not have had any. Now, for companies that maybe don't have the resources, they will outsource that. And there are a lot of companies out there that provide private security. So it is a little bit concerning that he had received some threats in the past. You know, I'm not sure why those threats were not taken into consideration. Also, that'll be another point to look at. If they do have threats, where did they come from? Could he have been one of these people? And the other thing that probably we'll look at, if with this whole depose, deny thing, if that's truly the case, they're going to look back to see who they denied insurance or coverage to. Is there a lead there? Is there a disgruntled person there? So I would look at that stuff. And, you know, not to say that this couldn't be it, but maybe it is a disgruntled employee as well. You just don't know what sometimes the circumstances are within a company. People get disgruntled as well. Maybe this person's working there and they're not liking the way it's set up or denying people coverage. So there are so many unanswered questions here, but you really have to use your imagination to solve something like this.
Yeah, and also about those the shell casings. I mean, that is something that it seems as though they left there on purpose, and yet shell casings, like they are, I mean, forensics these days, that is a huge clue, right?
It is a very huge clue. It does help. You would want to match the casings with the gun. The casings also tell you what kind of gun was used. It's also interesting to me that there was a malfunction when he was shooting and he had to fix his malfunction. Now, some experts have said, oh, it shows that he's not a great shooter. But I actually think that shows that he is a good shooter because he had the capability while he's doing this, despite all the stress, to actually handle his gun and clear it. So to me, I see it from a different lens, that he had that ability to think clearly, clear his weapon while he's in the middle of actually assassinating somebody.
Evie Pompouris, we really appreciate your analysis. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And a very close call out here in California. The entire northern coast and the Bay Area got the kind of alert on their phone that you never want to see. Tsunami imminent, seek higher ground immediately. And for like 30 minutes, everyone there started preparing. They were bracing for impact from what they thought could be this monster wave generated by a massive 7.0 earthquake that went off on the bottom of the seafloor. And while it could have been absolutely catastrophic, fortunately, it was not the kind of earthquake that usually makes tsunamis. Instead, it was what's called a strike slip, like the one right here on the right. That's when two plates slide across each other and cause some shaking. But if this was a thrust fault, things would have been so much worse. That's when the plates move up and down at a high magnitude, and that can move massive amounts of water and make the kind of killer waves we saw in Japan back in 2011. That 9.0 mega thrust earthquake caused a massive tsunami and killed nearly 20,000 people. Thankfully today, here in California, it was just a warning that something like this can happen at any time, any place here in the West, as our friend Liz Kreutz knows very well up in Northern California. She's got the latest from communities that are still feeling aftershocks. Liz?
Tonight, a disaster warning sending shockwaves along the Pacific coast. A 7.0 earthquake striking Northern California, knocking bottles to the floor and doors off their hinges. Here, littering supermarket aisles, making waves in swimming pools.
This is a big one, guys.
And bringing fears of a tsunami.
It wasn't over, in a nanosecond. It kept going and it was building and you hear things falling.
NOAA issuing a tsunami warning for hundreds of miles of coastline stretching from California's Bay Area to southern Oregon. The potential of devastating flooding forcing evacuation orders in California cities like Berkeley and Half Moon Bay. Residents ordered to move inland immediately.
You take cautious steps to protect your safety. So that's why I'm up here at a high point.
The tsunami warnings lifted a few hours after the quake. Today's quake coming nearly 2 years to the day after a 6.4 struck the same area in Humboldt County. 2 died and several buildings were damaged.
Historically, this point just offshore of Northern California has had more magnitude 7s than anywhere else in the state because we have 3 different tectonic plates that come together there.
Governor Gavin Newsom declaring a state of emergency for the area.
It's another reminder of the state that we live in and the state of mind that we need to bring to our day-to-day reality here in the state of California in terms of being prepared for earthquakes.
And officials say there's also been some reports of a water main break and some homes knocked off their foundation. Thousands of people are without power right now, but thankfully there's been no reports of injuries or deaths. Despite the size of this quake, it did not happen in a densely populated area, and there's not been significant damage. Back to you.
Liz Kreutz, thank you. And NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns joins us now. Bill, it was pretty touch and go for 30 minutes there. I was watching on my phone until we finally saw some data come in from the National Weather Service. What did you see?
Yeah, this was nervous times because this was a big earthquake. You know, this was a magnitude 7, so this was serious business. These can produce pretty large tsunamis, and it was so close to the coast that we immediately had to issue warnings. You know, this isn't like it was out in the Pacific or in the Aleutian Islands, you know, far away from, you know, the West Coast, where usually you get maybe a tsunami watch is issued. This had to go straight to a warning in case there was, you know, a tsunami, and that's why it was from Oregon all the way down to San Francisco. But as time went on, when we learned that Fort Bragg, that was going to be one of the first locations that would have been hit by a tsunami in Eureka, once they didn't report everything, that's when everyone was kind of like, okay, I think we're going to be all right with this one. And we just got lucky the type of earthquake it was. And just to show you how rare these are, you know, on planet Earth, every year, we only get about 18 earthquakes of this magnitude. So, you know, Gadi, the fact that it was only 70 miles off the California coast, this could have been a lot worse if it was a different type of earthquake. This was two plates going past each other. It wasn't one of those earthquakes that pushes, you know, if this had been one of those earthquakes that pushes the land up, then we would have had a disaster on our hands.
Yeah, we're so lucky. We're seeing a ton of aftershocks still. How big of a chance is there that these could just be precursors to something bigger?
Yeah, you know, it's very common to have a lot of aftershocks and even foreshocks. And, you know, right now, this is the area. And by the way, there's 3 plates that all meet in this area. This is a well-known place. They've had a 40 magnitude 6.0 or higher in the last 100 years in this general region. So this isn't like any stranger to like what, you know, why it happened here. And these are all the aftershocks we've had. These are mostly like 2.0 to 2.4. They're relatively weak on the scale. And the USGS actually gives us a forecast, an aftershock forecast, and they're saying there's only less than a 1% chance of getting one that was equally as strong or stronger, about a 7% chance for a 6 and 53% for a 5. We've already had a couple 3 and 4, so Gadi, the odds of anything stronger are pretty slim.
Yeah, there's going to be some shakers, though, in the next couple of days for sure. And Bill, on the other side of the country, where you're at, you've been dealing with some cold, some storms. What's it looking like out your window?
A little bit of endless early winter, but it's going to be a break. It's just going to take a couple days to get there. So we still have some areas with winter storm warnings and lake effect snow warnings. We've had some squally type weather during the day today. Thankfully, no reports of any bad accidents on the road. But everywhere you see the blue here, we still have numerous areas that are dealing with snow. And most of these locations, as you know, have been buried in snow. Additional snowfall, possibly up to a foot in a few spots, up here in the Tug Hill Plateau, locally to 24 inches. But you would just have to get through about one more day of very cold temperatures, and then it's going to improve as far as the snow goes. But, Gadi, tomorrow morning's cold. Our friends in Atlanta aren't going to be happy with 15 degrees wind chill when they wake up in the morning. Even 31 in Tallahassee is pretty cold. It gets a little bit better, as you'd expect, during the day tomorrow with some sunshine. And then we have one more cold morning, especially in northern New England Saturday. And then everyone deals with a really nice warm up as we head through next week. Kind of a break from our early harsh winter in this portion of the country.
So much for hot Atlanta. Thanks so much, Bill.
Yes.
And don't go anywhere. We are just getting started. Still ahead, Bitcoin owners, they are buzzing. The cryptocurrency rallying to 100K for the first time ever. We're going to ask our Brian Chung what's driving this and get into the sketchiness of what's coming up in the future of everything.
You know why you were there? Because you wanted to be visible, because you are auditioning for this job.
I was there to pay respect for a fallen member of this agency.
You endangered President Biden's life, Vice President Harris's life, because you put those agents out of position.
Yikes. But first, getting heated on the Hill. What sparked that screaming match between the acting Secret Service director and a Texas congressman? And later this hour, we are popping the top on a lawsuit about ginger ale. Details on the Clinton. What's actually in those cans and bottles isn't what's being advertised. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back. Elon Musk was in D.C. today talking DOGE. We're going to get to that in just a minute. But first, here are some of the headlines that we're watching tonight. In just the last few hours, the House voted against releasing the Matt Gaetz ethics report, at least for now. That's after Democrats forced a vote. And Republicans, though, responded to voting it back to the Ethics Committee. So after all of that, we still don't know if that report is ever going to be made public. And Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield is walking back a plan to limit reimbursements for anesthesia during surgeries. Now, this was supposed to go into effect in New York, Connecticut, and Missouri, but they got some pretty intense backlash. And the company says the proposed policy was misunderstood and they are not moving forward with it. And today, transgender advocates headed to Capitol Hill holding some sort of sit-in protest at a bathroom. That's after Congresswoman Nancy Mace introduced a bill which limits bathroom use that doesn't align with their biological sex. Around 24 people held signs and blocked a bathroom, and 15 of them were arrested for illegally protesting. And the Russian stowaway who snuck on a flight from JFK to Paris was in court today, and she's facing federal charges and could end up in prison if she's convicted. She somehow cleared a TSA checkpoint and got on a Delta flight where she was then detained in France. The FBI then brought her back to the States. The judge has given her less than 24 hours to come up with the bail money. And President Joe Biden rang in the holiday season today, taking part in the National Christmas Tree Lighting Ceremony in D.C. This year's tree is coming from North Carolina, a spot that was hit hard by Hurricane Helene. And Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy were on Capitol Hill today, getting ready for that big role in the next Trump administration. But unlike Trump's other cabinet picks, those two are not going to need any confirmation votes to lead the brand spanking new Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE for short. But who's going to watch the money watchers? NBC's Hallie Jackson reports.
Billionaire, titan of industry, political mega donor, Elon Musk has plenty of titles, but critics say he's earning a new one, broligarch.
Broligarchy is ruled by these unelected male billionaires, mostly from the high-tech and financial services sector. The Trump administration has been bringing them in en masse to do all kinds of important things, like restructure the federal government.
The so-called broligarchy, a reference to Russia and the oligarchs there who rose to power after the fall of the Soviet Union. Rich men who used their cozy relationship with the state to try to control major industries, energy, the media, the banks. Now, some experts fear a new Americanized version, not just to lobby on policy, but to directly influence it.
We're headed on a slippery slope to a Russia-like situation.
During the Biden administration, the White House made moves like stepping up antitrust enforcement, cracking down on crypto, and empowering the IRS to make sure the wealthy pay what they owe.
Make all the money you want. Just begin to pay your fair share.
But moves like those, one reason why some one-percenters say they soured on the Biden administration.
The Biden administration just flat out tried to kill us. So they came straight at our founders. And they tried to kill crypto, and they were on their way to trying to kill AI.
Now, President-elect Trump pledging a 180.
The largest regulatory reduction in the history of our country.
And the tip of the spear for that may be Elon Musk.
The future is going to be amazing.
A man who has plenty of his own interests at stake. He spent more than $100 million to back Mr. Trump during the campaign, an investment appearing to pay off as Musk's net worth has surged since Election Day. He's now set to create and lead that Department of Government Efficiency, an advisory role, no Senate confirmation needed, with perhaps unprecedented proximity to the president. Musk expected to promote policies that could help him and other super high earners, like fewer restrictions on AI and the crypto industry, a less aggressive approach to potential monopolies, and most importantly, some experts say, massive tax breaks. Musk is not alone, joined by the likes of Vivek Ramaswamy, PayPal's Peter Thiel, and venture capitalists like David Sachs, all throwing their support behind Mr. Trump. Even some billionaires who shied away from full-throated endorsements during the campaign may be starting to come around, like Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, once threatened with life in prison by Mr. Trump, now dining with him at Mar-a-Lago as he reportedly seeks a so-called active role in the incoming administration's tech policies. Jeff Bezos has been more explicit about what his own role could look like.
He seems to have a lot of energy around reducing regulation. And my point of view, if I can help him do that, I'm going to help him.
Still, for some who study the oligarchy, the sirens sounding about what a Musk-led tech titan takeover could mean for everybody else.
The oligarchs, in many cases, have been very clear and public about their belief that they see themselves as the only people who are fit to rule us, and that they don't think democracy has a future.
Allie Jackson, thank you. And look, political fights are nothing new in Washington, D.C. But today there was a screaming match that broke out on Capitol Hill that almost seemed like something out of Hollywood. I remember Tom Cruise yelling, "I want the truth," in A Few Good Men, and Jack Nicholson saying, "You can't handle the truth." It was like that, but even more intense. Let me set the actual scene here. The head of the Secret Service was getting grilled by lawmakers on how they've been dealing with security, and then Republican congressman from Texas, he starts asking questions about whether the acting Secret Service director repositioned himself for a photo op during a 9/11 memorial, and then all hell broke loose.
That is the day where we remember the more than 3,000 people that have died on 9/11. I actually responded to Ground Zero. I was there going through the ashes of the World Trade Center. I was there at Fresh Kills.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you,
Congressman.
Were you the special agent in charge?
To show respect for a Secret Service member that died on 9/11.
Oh, that you're trying to be.
Do not invoke 9/11 for political purposes.
Oh, I'm not. I'm invoking this.
You are, sir.
Gentlemen,
and you are out of line.
I would like to ask him a question.
Please. You are out of line, Congressman.
Don't try to bully me. I am an elected member of Congress, and I'm asking you a serious question, and you are playing politics.
I am a public servant who has served this nation, and
you won't answer the question.
On our day, on our country's darkest day.
Committee will come to order.
Committee will come to order.
I'm asking you serious questions for the American people, and they're very simple. They're not trick questions. Were you the special agent in charge that day?
No, I wasn't. I was there representing the United States Secret Service, sir.
Mr. Fallon, your time's expired.
It did not affect protective operations.
You know why you were there? Because you wanted to be visible, because you are auditioning for this job.
I was there to pay respect for a fallen member of this agency.
You endangered President
out of line, Congressman.
Vice President Harris's life, because you put those agents out of position.
Mr. Chairman.
Did you have a radio with you?
Mr. Fallon, your time has expired.
I did, sir, and you are out of line.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, let's bring in NBC News correspondent Garrett Haake for a frank and thorough analysis of all this, borrowing your words, my friend. Garrett, for a second here, it looked like these guys were going to throw down. All about that picture that was shown there. What really triggered this?
Yeah, Gadi, I've been doing this a long time, and I've never seen so much of a protracted shouting match in a congressional hearing. Tempers flare all the time, but nothing quite like this. I think the underlying issue here is still the relationship that the Secret Service has with Congress, and particularly with Republican members of Congress, who remain furious at the failures that led to both of Donald Trump's assassination attempts over the last year. Ronald Rao is the acting Secret Service director. He has stepped into that role since the first assassination attempt, and has taken kind of a verbal beating in a lot of these hearings that he's had up here on Capitol Hill. He may not be long for that role, especially after what happened today, but he's done his level best to defend his agency's honor and integrity where he can, perhaps even in a setting like this where it might have been better to just let this one go.
Yeah, you think? Also, I'm writing down protracted. That is one of the code words, I guess, for
That's right.
People almost getting into a fight.
We'll start building out the list, yeah.
Yeah. Also, I got to say, I saw a video of an epic scrum there in the halls of Congress. You were leading the charge. It seems like you finally got some longer than one-word answers from Pete Hegseth, Trump's pick to lead the Department of Defense. How's that going? What did he say to you today?
Yeah, we did. Look, Hegseth has clearly made a change in his own strategy as regards to this confirmation process. He understands that what he's saying behind closed doors isn't enough. His story is being told in the media, essentially without his side of it, and he's ready to start engaging with reporters to defend himself, at least to a certain degree. That's what I discovered when I asked him a couple of questions after one meeting this morning. Listen to what he told me, and then we'll talk a little bit about what he wouldn't talk about after this clip.
This is how the process works. It's not going to be tried out here. It's going to be discussed inside the offices, how we rebuild our military, put the warfighters first. That's what President Trump has asked me to do, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Are there any circumstances where you would withdraw from this process?
I'm here with the support of President Donald Trump. as long as he supports me, which he told me this morning, I'll be here.
Two key things out of that, Gadi. First, the references to Donald Trump. Hegseth understands the assignment, if you will. He is in this role at the pleasure of President Trump, President-elect Trump, who clearly wants to see him out there fighting for the job. And that's what we've seen from Hegseth over the last couple days. Now, the meeting he was coming out of, I asked the senator who he was meeting with, a guy from South Dakota named Mike Rounds, what he had talked to Hegseth about. He said Hegseth needs to get out there and start answering these questions in public. He needs to start really being open to answering all the questions that are being presented to him. The one question Hegseth didn't answer that I asked him just after that clip ends is about the questions about his drinking and how he is addressing that with senators. He told me that's something he still only wants to talk about with senators. That's probably not going to pass muster by the time he gets to a confirmation hearing, if he gets that far, Gadi.
Yeah, always good to remember that before the confirmation hearing or on the way to a senator's office, you still have to walk by Garrett Haake with a microphone and camera. Garrett, thank you, brother. And some more breaking news from the Trump transition team tonight. The president-elect has named an AI and a crypto czar. David Sachs has been tapped for that role. Hallie Jackson just mentioned him in her piece just a few minutes ago. And if you haven't been paying attention, he was the COO over at PayPal for a while, founder of Yammer. That was a social network for enterprise users. And Sachs is also going to be heading up the Presidential Council of Advisors for Science and Technology. And on top of all this news, we're going to have more on how crypto is playing into this new White House and a little bit later this hour. But coming up, the satellite launch aiming to partially block the sun. Yeah, that happened today. The point? We've got artificial intelligence. How about an artificial solar eclipse? We're going to break that down and what that means. But first, you got to see this. One of the most complete Stegosaurus fossils ever discovered is about to go on public display. That is Apex right there. It was unearthed in 2022 in Colorado. There are more than 250 bone elements. That's like 80% complete. And the 27-foot-long fossil was bought at an auction by billionaire Tennessee Griffin. Now he's loaning it out to the American Museum of Natural History out in New York City, so visitors can see it starting Sunday. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back. Here are some of the stories we're watching out here in the West. Check this out. This was a school bus bursting into flames with students on board. Now, that happened yesterday in Salem, Oregon, but luckily, someone driving behind quickly ran in, saved the day, got the kids off. All 7 of them made it out okay. Police say no one was hurt. But as for what caused that fire, that is still unclear. And with the convicted murderer still on the loose, schools outside of Bakersfield, California were closed again for the second day straight. And now Christmas events and other celebrations are also being postponed as police continue to look for Cesar Hernandez, who escaped their custody on Monday while he was supposed to be heading to a court appearance. Hernandez was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years to life. And Taylor Farms in California has been hit with a lawsuit accusing it of providing contaminated food to a local catering company in St. Louis. The suit claims that people who attended that catered event last month came down with symptoms of E. coli, and this is the same company that pulled its onions from the McDonald's Quarter Pounders back in October after they made more than 100 people sick nationwide. And a class action lawsuit is accusing Keurig Dr. Pepper of false advertising when it comes to ginger ale. And you know how if you drink ginger ale, it says naturally flavored on the can? Well, the lawsuit filed by a woman named Lillian Elliott alleges that Canada Dry beverages should not have those labels because the drink actually contains artificial flavoring. Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Angela Sinandella to tell us more about this lawsuit. Angela, I saw this on your TikTok and I was like, wait, what? I have to ask so many questions about this. So this all comes down to natural versus artificial flavoring and the label on the can. Like, how big of a chance does Elliott have here?
So that's exactly right. Now, look, it might sound like it's just about mislabeling or semantics, but at the heart of it, the core allegation is fraud, right? It's that we as consumers are handing over our hard-earned money to a company based on the promises that company has made to us about what is in that product. So if it turns out that the company has lied or made false allegations or has just misled us about what is in that product, then they have broken their end of the bargain, which then means that we don't have to uphold our end of the bargain. And because we've already already parted with our money, then it means that we should get that money returned to us. So that's really the basis of all of these types of class action lawsuits that are around false advertising. Now, with regards to this one specifically, there are a lot about citric acid and malic acid being added to foods that are labeled as natural. Some are dismissed, some settle, some move forward, and it all depends on whether or not the judge believes here that a reasonable consumer really was duped by this, whether or not that promise really was false, Gadi.
And what can you tell us about the whole acid thing in the lawsuit, and how important is that to this case?
Yeah, so that is everything. So almost anything ginger flavored has malic acid in it. Now, there's two types of malic acid. There's a natural malic acid that comes from grapes, apples, and pears, and then there's synthetic malic acid, which is a petrochemical, Gadi. It comes from petroleum, and so that is what is alleged that is in these drinks. And so if they are being labeled as all natural but have petroleum in them, then that could be the problem, Gadi.
Yeah, petroleum and ginger are very different. You're making me think that this isn't even Canada Dry, doesn't even come from Canada. Let's say Elliot does win this lawsuit. What does this mean for ginger ale drinkers around the country? Like, could this be a class action lawsuit all of a sudden? Because I drink ginger ale every time I fly. Like, everybody partake here?
Yeah, so that's exactly how this is being filed, which is as a proposed class action lawsuit. So the next step would be for a judge to either dismiss it or move it forward. And if this lawsuit is not dismissed, what is most likely is that the company would then settle, right? This could take years, though. There could be a lot of litigation before that. But at some point, likely, if it continues to move forward, Keurig, Dr. Pepper here, would likely offer back money to everyone who has purchased it in the nation. That is currently how this lawsuit has been filed. And the amount then would be distributed based usually on how many cans you have purchased, because the idea is that you may not have spent that money of yours had you known what actually was in the product, which, as alleged here, is petroleum.
Darn it, I did not pay for those drinks. They came with the flight, I guess. Angela Sinandela, thank you so much. Just another reason to follow you. Learn something new every day. And still ahead, calls growing louder in South Korea for the embattled president to resign. But where is he right now? Our Janice Mackey-Frayer joins us from Seoul on the nation's political future. Hey there, welcome back. Let's take a quick look around the world. We're starting with Israeli airstrikes tearing through a tent camp in southern Gaza, killing at least 21 people. That camp was supporting displaced Palestinians, and the strike is the latest in an area that Israel deemed a safe zone but has been repeatedly targeted. The IDF says it struck senior Hamas militants involved in, quote, terrorist activities. Now, the search is still on for 3 climbers missing in New Zealand. Strong winds today did put a pause on efforts, though, and the men flew to a hut on the mountain to start their ascent, but they never made it to their prearranged transport after the climb. Police say they have found climbing-related things believed to have belonged to those men, but there's still no sign of those 3. And the power grid is back online in Cuba, but electricity is still a problem across that island. Officials say the country doesn't have enough capacity to cover the demand, so daily 5-hour outages are being brought back, and this was Cuba's 3rd blackout in the last 2 months. And remains of indigenous Australians that were kept in German museums have been given back to their descendants. The remains were taken during the late 19th century. A representative for the area where the remains came from called the return a process of healing. And protests in South Korea are getting louder, bigger, and people packing the streets demanding the impeachment of President Yoon there after his failed attempt at imposing martial law. NBC's Janice Mackey-Frayer has more from Seoul.
Facing police investigations and an impeachment vote, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol remains out of the public eye after shocking the world with his brief failed attempt at imposing martial law here. Since then, protests against him are growing louder. Thousands are joining rallies. They're chanting Yoon Suk-yeol must resign. The crowd, a mix of generations, equally outraged by the attempt to upend democracy.
Protests are going through the center of Seoul, reveal how deeply unpopular the South Korean president has become.
The impeachment vote is set for Saturday, with mass demonstrations expected. For it to pass, would require members of Yoon's own party to vote against him, and it isn't clear that would happen. Already facing allegations of insurrection, the National Police Agency now says Yoon, his former defense minister, and others will be investigated for treason. We're also learning more from hearings underway about the inner workings of the martial law declaration and how it surprised even top military officials. Yoon is not the first president here to face prosecution or even impeachment, but his fate is in the balance, and the political costs are mounting. Janice Mackey-Freire, NBC News, Seoul.
Janice, thank you. And to Syria now, where that country might be nearing a turning point. Rebels there have taken another key city on a march towards the country's capital. That despite claims by Syria's defense minister that their forces have regained some ground. Now, this was a scene today in Hama, the rebels claiming they have seized a prison. Look at this, people just walking right on out, some even reuniting with their families right there. And this is the latest step in the lightning advance across the country. NBC's Matt Bradley is in the region with the latest. Matt?
Yeah, Gadi, well, we've seen another major advance in that war in Syria, which is 13 years old, but which hadn't seen a whole lot of military maneuvers for the past 5 years, ever since a peace treaty that was essentially negotiated by the Turks and the Russians. Now we've been seeing a lightning advance by those rebel forces, and just today they took the city of Hama. Now, this was both a strategic and a symbolic victory for these rebel forces. It's symbolic because Hama had never really fallen to rebel forces before during this 13-year civil war, and because back in 1982, Hama was the site of a major massacre at the hands of Bashar al-Assad's father, Hafez al-Assad, who suppressed a revolution there that was extremely bloody. But now it looks as though both the regime and the rebels have said that they have taken this city of Hama. We've heard from the Deputy Minister of Defense of the Syrian regime saying that the Syrians have withdrawn from this city in order, essentially, to spare civilian lives. But this is a very strategic maneuver and an important step for the rebels because Hama lies on the road to Homs, which lies on the road to Damascus, which means that these rebels are now, if they continue their lightning advance, within striking distance of taking the Syrian capital, which means that they are within striking distance of taking the whole country.
Matt Bradley, thank you. And before we go, it is time for the future of everything. And your buddies with Bitcoin are probably feeling pretty good right now. Hey, maybe that's even you. So what is making the crypto boom, and is it going to last? That is coming up in the future of money. Plus, an effort to block the sun. And no, this is not a new Despicable Me plot. This is the first part of an experiment underway that we're going to discuss, all coming up in the future of space. So stay tuned. And tonight on the future of, I don't know, bragging rights. Congratulations to all the Bitcoin investors out there. For years, you've been forced to defend your crypto against all those fiat normies like your parents or your friends or those old school analysts on Wall Street that told you over and over again that it will be worth nothing. And through the ups and the downs, your patience has been tested. But tonight, at least for now, you've got the last laugh. The cryptocurrency soaring to a new high, touching the $100,000 per Bitcoin mark for the first time ever since the mysterious Satoshi Nakamoto unleashed his blockchain creation into the world 15 years ago. Let's bring in NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung. So, Brian, what's behind this mountain of a surge?
I mean, it really has been the election. So it's a 1-month anniversary today since Donald Trump won the election, and there's been some exuberance over what a Donald Trump administration would do for cryptocurrencies. And analysts that I've spoken to, I was just talking with one policy analyst down in Washington that said, look, the rip higher in Bitcoin is off of what is justifiably a more optimistic vision for what the regulatory environment is going to look like once President Trump takes office on January 20th. And that's because you have Gary Gensler, who's currently the head of Securities and Exchange Commission, who has described crypto as the Wild West, who's going to be gone because Trump's going to be able to appoint his own guy. He nominated or announced that he intends to nominate Paul Atkins, who is a pro-crypto advocate, into that SEC role. So that is very bullish for not just Bitcoin, but crypto at large, because they want a more clear regulatory framework that would support the treatment of cryptocurrencies like other types of financial assets. That's the reason why we saw the rip higher in Bitcoin.
So what's the word on Wall Street now? Is it to the moon? Is it correction? What's going to happen next?
Well, look, I don't have a crystal ball. You have those who are bulls on cryptocurrency saying the next stop for Bitcoin specifically could be 200,000. But I want to point out that we talk about Bitcoin and tend to conflate it as the entire cryptocurrency industry. Not necessarily the case. There are some cryptocurrencies that aren't doing well. And I want to point to one particular cryptocurrency that was just launched today. It was launched by an influencer who, let's just say, she became famous after a interview on the street. It's called Hawk Tua coin. I'm not going to explain that, but she launched it and it basically dropped like a rock. And there are some that are alleging maybe it was sort of a rug pull situation where perhaps insiders were dumping it. Haley Welch, again, the Hawk Tua influencer, saying the team hasn't sold one token.
Huh?
Hawkonomics, if you will, again, not going to explain what that means, but Haley Welch saying that this was not a rug pull. If it is indeed the case, that could maybe launch some sort of legal scrutiny on her. So this could be a very serious situation that we're talking about. But it's just a reminder, Gadi, that yes, Bitcoin is one thing that's up to 100,000, but not all crypto projects are alike. There's certainly some, let's call it dangerous and maybe even weird situations out there which could catch investors on the downside.
I'm glad you brought all that up because the last question I have is a very simple one. And I think about it every single time something like this happens. And it is, what is money? What is money? Especially these days. Brian, just give it to us straight. What is money?
I mean, I don't know if I have the time for this one, but look, at the end of the day, money is what you assign the value to. So yes, we know that the U.S. government says that $1 is $1, but for everything else, we assign different values to it. So if you think about a diamond, for example, well, a lab-grown diamond has different value to someone that you're proposing to than a real diamond. And if you think about even Bitcoin, it's the same thing. For someone that's bullish on Bitcoin, they might see the value of it as $200,000. For other people, it might be zero. And in the market, the beautiful thing is that it's the bulls versus the bears duking it out. If there are more sellers than buyers, price goes down. If there are more buyers than sellers, price goes up. So that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, this feels a lot more like Bulls, Bears, and then a Hello Kitty coming and swiping too.
In the middle.
Yeah,
I love that.
Brian, thanks so much, man. And right now, 2 European satellites are hurtling through space together on a very ambitious project. Maybe they're humming, once upon a time I was falling in love, but now I'm only falling apart. Because right now, about 37,000 miles above the Earth, that is their destination. These satellites eventually will try to create a solar eclipse of their hearts, or at least one of their hearts, because those 2 satellites, they're only going to be about 500 feet apart, and they're going to line up with one directly eclipsing the sun for science. And they took off today from a space center in India. It is the first time anything like this has been tried, and here's how they say it's supposed to work.
The satellites will be able to maneuver themselves to line up with the sun. One spacecraft will cast a shadow onto another to produce the solar eclipse effect. If the 2 are not perfectly aligned, then the bright disk of the sun will not be hidden by the instrument, and the corona will be obscured by its bright light.
Now that corona, that's kind of like the sun's version of its spicy atmosphere, if you will. Scientists want to know why it's so hot, why it spits out so much space plasma into the universe. So joining us now to explain all of this is astrophysicist and NASA advisor, Dr. Paul Sutter. Thanks so much for being with us, Doctor. A lot of calculating that went into this to make sure everything lines up correctly. If it does, is there any chance that we'll be able to see it from telescopes here on Earth?
Oh, yes. These 2 satellites are going to be visible to telescopes here on the Earth, but they'll just be tiny dots of light. Remember, these spacecraft individually are not very large. They're roughly the size of like an SUV each. And they are going to be 37,000 miles away from the Earth and flying very close together, like you mentioned, about 500 feet away. But they have to maintain a precision flying formation with a tolerance of less than a millimeter. To give you a sense of scale, that's like placing these 2 spacecraft, one in LA and one in New York City, and being precise down to the level of a city block.
Wow. And the main goal here, walk us through why the sun's corona is so important and why we can't learn about it when we have solar eclipses here on Earth.
Absolutely. The solar corona is the sun's atmosphere, and it's perhaps the least understood part of the sun. It is incredibly hot. It has a temperature of over 1 million degrees, and yet it's so thin that you could swim through it without even noticing that extreme temperature. And the solar corona is the home of solar weather. This is where solar storms are born. These are where flares are born. And these flares and these storms can race out throughout the solar system. They can affect us here on the Earth. They can disrupt electrical systems. They can disrupt satellites. And so we need to predict these storms. We need to understand how these storms start. And we can only do that by studying where they get started in the corona. And we can do that during solar eclipses on the Earth, but that only happens once every few years. With these satellites, we can create an eclipse on demand.
And Paul, this is a huge day for all of us here on Earth, and especially the European Space Agency. But like here in the United States, today we learned Artemis 2 has now been pushed at least a year down the road, right? Which means the return to the moon is even like now maybe mid-2027. What are your thoughts on the delay?
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing, but also not unexpected. But we have to keep in mind the original Artemis program, when it was first developed during the Obama administration, when it was first shaped out, set a goal for landing humans on the moon in 2028. And then Vice President Mike Pence, who came in with Donald Trump's first term, said, no, let's make it 2024. And NASA's like, wait, what? And so we've been trying to maintain that goal, but now we've been pushing it back. So we're actually going back to the original plan that we had, that NASA thought was a reasonable timeline for getting us back onto the moon. We're going to do it one way or the other. We're going to do it one of these years. We are making slow but steady progress. It is going to happen, and delays are part of the process because we are developing new technologies.
And we are looking forward to that. Doctor, thanks so much for joining us as always.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And that's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gadi Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.